What is up, everybody? Keith Jameson, go by Gator Guy 231 across the DFS industry, and we are at episode 2. We made it past 1. We're to 2. DFS 101. This is going to be on everything cash games, and I'm just going to throw this out there with cash games. I'm also going to throw optimal builds because so often, and I think this goes on just a lot of DFS, people hear cash games and think it's just 50-50 or just head-to-heads. And sometimes cash lineups are referring to like the most optimal plays, and a lot of sports that means from like optimizers and projections. In soccer, to me, that just means in a world of no goals and no assists, who are the players that are going to get us DraftKings points regardless, are going to build us a floor where while everybody else is chasing down goals and those goals aren't happening, we're chasing corner kicks, we're chasing crosses, we're chasing all the points we can accumulate without those goals to put us into cash games. And guess what? Sometimes those can win GPPs. So, I think that cash game perspectives can be used very, very usefully in single entry contests, can be used in high stakes GPPs. You'll see a lot of players up there doing those type of strategies and maybe just making one pivot point, just trying to be a little bit different. All of it works. So just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying these videos or you're enjoying any of the content on FSI, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. It is how our channel keeps growing. Show to other people that are out looking for DFS content that we do a pretty good job. Then also like this video, and then if you have any questions, hit the comments. They get fed right to my phone, so I answer them all. All right. Let's just talk about cash game basics. So first off, make sure if you're brand new to soccer, you don't know the terminologies, things like that, pause, go back to episode 1, soccer basics, get that because I'm going to be referring to pretty much a lot of those concepts here. So the first thing is making sure you just know the context of the slate. So in a lot of ways, making sure that the things that I laid out in episode 1, you're doing. So you're checking odds, you know who the big favorites are, and then the step 2 that you're checking set pieces, that you know who the set piece takers are, because what we're going to want to do first and foremost is make sure that those top teams, those teams that should be dominating possession, that should be potentially scoring the goals, right, or are more often going to be in scoring positions, that we are getting those set takers in our lineup. So, for the longest time until this year, that's been, okay, it's a Manchester City slate. My first click is going to be Kevin De Bruyne. It's a Liverpool slate, and I'm going to use EPL when I'm talking here because I'd say a majority of people that their introduction to DFS Soccer is EPL. And then they diverge into Interleague and MLS and Champions League, all that good stuff. But, Liverpool's on the slate. Your first click is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Leicester, for the longest time, first click on the slate, James Maddison. Southampton's James Ward-Prowse. I can go on and on and on. Wolverhampton, never João Moutinho. For those that watch my weekly stuff, you know that answer. But all these dominant set takers, where if you even pull up their logs, you'll see why, right? Trent Alexander-Arnold, 20, 18, 20, 21, and you look and there's no goals on there. There might be an assist, but sometimes there's no assist because he's just getting a ton of crosses and open play. He's getting corner kicks, he's getting free kicks, and so many of those times, those are the scoring positions where shots result. So I get one corner kick and it hits, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I'm going to really use a lot of Liverpool stuff, but Trent Alexander-Arnold crosses the corner, that's 0.7, gets the head of Virgil van Dijk, and let's say that it gets saved. 1.7 points for Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? 1 for the shot assist, 1 for the cross. Then Virgil there gets 2, but let's say, I actually joke, sometimes my favorite ones is the cross that, the inaccurate cross that gets cleared away and it's going to result in another cross. So, I can remember sitting there seeing games where, 4 or 5 straight corners get cleared out of bounds and retaken as a corner. That's 0.7 every time. So 0.7, 0.7, 0.7. And before you leave, you got 3.5 points from 5 corner kicks. And the last one finally resulted in a shot. That's another 1. So I just got 4.5 DK points for that action, right? There's a lot of players on a normal slate that won't even get to 4 to 5 DK, and you just got it from a 1 minute burst of the corner flag. So that's why corners are just so important. And again, they also are more often than not where a lot of times goals can result from. More goals will result from set plays than just a normal build-up. So corner kicks are our most important. So, you very much will see cash games where, a 4-game EPL slate, the two midfielders, you'll see James Maddison, James Ward-Prowse, Trent Alexander-Arnold as a defender. Let's say it was Everton for the longest time. It was Lucas Dean, right? We plug in Lucas Dean there as a left back, and all of a sudden we already have 50 points built up as a floor. And now we're looking at a forward eligible player. We're hoping that there's a set piece taker there, and we're filling from there. So set piece takers are your friends. Now, forward can be sometimes where things get just a little bit difficult. Forward, we are looking for set piece takers, or we're looking for really one of two other options. A wide player that crosses the ball a lot. A really good example, now he's on Everton, but for the longest time, Andrew Townsend was a DFS dream. You wouldn't always get corner kicks from him, but every time you get the ball, you want to cross it into the box. And again, much like the corner kick crosses, open play crosses count the same, 0.7 for that. If it gets a striker's head, now we're at 1.7. Also in the wide parts of the field, that's where a lot of fouls get drawn and a lot of one-on-ones happen. So, a guy like Wilfred Zaha has always drawn a ton of fouls. Jack Grealish, if you remember back in Villa days, drew a ton of fouls. So we can also look for players that draw fouls. And then the best part is not only do we have like 1 point for a foul drawn or 0.7 for a cross, but those attacking players that are in the final third, they're playing left wing or right wing, they also have a great chance of goal equity in terms of a goal themselves, shooting it on goal, or an assist because they're in the attacking third. So, we don't ever want to, in cash games, completely devoid ourselves from goals, right? I would rather, if given like a final person in to a lineup, I would much rather risk it on an attacking player than a central defensive midfielder that doesn't really cross midfield, right? And that just makes perfect sense that, hey, there's not a set taker available. I've got all the guys that I want. I'm on my final player here, and I'm just down to, Calvin Phillips without sets. Or, I can take the winger that's filling in, for Leeds, just as a random, back to the old days. Helder Costa was a guy that'd be super cheap. I'll take him. Well, I'm going to take the guy that has a better shot at goals here than the guy that, might even be playing center back or a deep lying number 6, central defensive midfielder. I'm going to take the guy that might get a shot, and hell, maybe that shot goes in. Maybe he just gets a random fluke goal, off his back, whatever. I want the guy that has more upside. So that's a really good strategy on your last person in, just not being too picky with floor and just going, if my guy has, this guy I'm looking gets 3s and 4s, and I look at his shots, but he has 1 shot all season. Now this other guy's playing and attacking, I don't know if he might sub. He's kind of a fill-in, but he shoots the ball a ton. And yeah, the floor isn't great, but the upside's there. I'm going to go with upside. So cash game principles. Midfielders really want to look at those set pieces. Your midfield's positions should almost always be preoccupied by a set piece taker. Forward, we're going to hopefully also be a set piece taker, but if not, we're going to look for wide players that either cross the ball a ton, draw fouls, but are generally involved in attack. And of course, we prefer favorites versus dogs, right? Because favorites are going to have the ball more. You score DraftKings points more often than not by having the ball and doing offensive type of things versus defensive responsibilities. So that would be part 2. Let's talk about strikers. A striker is the player that is most central in the attacking formation. Pretty much any formation that you give, the striker or the number 9 is the guy in front of goal. Now he generally does not have too much of a floor. Doesn't get the ability to draw nearly as many fouls as a wide guy. Sometimes, like a Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi gets to get a ton of shots, right? Lionel Messi, sometimes 9, sometimes not. Ronaldo these days almost always playing as a number 9. But, they are super high volume shooters. But even like a Haaland, a Lewandowski, those are guys that we still want, right, in other leagues. But we like those type of guys when they're huge favorites, not as huge dogs. So, in EPL, I'm trying to think of a good example. A good example, maybe Harry Kane. It's a great example, actually. Especially the current version of Harry Kane, the floorless version. We had some stages there where it looked like he would always get 7, 8, 9 points, but now, you get 2, 3 DK, or you get 15 or 16 if he scores a goal. And you really got to kind of rely on odds and game flow for that. And even sometimes just price and opportunity cost. So what I mean by opportunity cost is, let's say that, Harry Kane is $8,000, right? And he's a slight favorite at home. You're like, okay, I think there's a decent shot he scores here. But you have a forward that has a goals worth of floor. Let's say it was Dwight McNeil in the glory Dwight McNeil days, where he split sets, where he'd be at home, was crossing the ball 9, 10 times. Which one would you prefer? Well, I'm going to take Dwight McNeil in that situation because, if I go Harry Kane, maybe scores 1 goal here. 1 goal would be a great outcome. I'd be stoked with that, and that would give me 16 or 17 DK. Well, Dwight McNeil in that situation, maybe he gives me 10 to 11 without a goal or assist. Now all of a sudden he's part of a goal or assist. I'm looking at 20. So not only did I have a higher floor, right? I had a 10 to 11 point floor versus Kane was 3 to 4. But technically, my ceiling could even be a little bit higher. Or my median ceiling even is a little bit higher. So that's something I like to weigh when doing strikers. But, sometimes you just get to a slate that, it's Manchester City. It was better when it was like Aguero days and you knew who the actual number 9 was. But Manchester City is minus 900. The odds say they're supposed to score 3 goals more often than not. And you go, Raheem Sterling is playing as number 9, or Ferran Torres is playing as number 9, or whoever it is. And look, City's just going to score a ton of goals here. He's the most likely one, if a goal notification happened, that's going to come from. I just need to plug him in. There's not a really good alternative at forward otherwise, and I know there's going to be goals here, so I just need to do it. That's where we, we'll often play a striker even in cash. When the goal scoring odds and just the overall odds that a goal is going to happen are almost too big to overlook. Let's now slide down to defender. Cash games should almost always be fullbacks. I went over that in episode 1, but fullbacks, the wide guys. The ones that take corner kicks are even more beautiful, right? I mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson, Lucas Dean for the longest time took corners. Matt Ritchie comes to mind, Aaron Cresswell. I'm sure I'm leaving out others. But there's also great fullbacks that don't take corners. João Cancelo. First one that comes to mind is João Cancelo. He's an amazing player. Trying to go through my head. There's more. It's just not coming to head right now. But, the guys that you go up and down that cross the ball a ton are always going to be preferred. Teams that are obviously favored, their fullbacks have the more freedom to attack up the pitch versus when they're a big dog, they actually get pinned back and they can't really do the offensive responsibility. Fullback is one of those positions that it's actually one of the toughest positions on the soccer pitch because you have to make the decision, am I charging forward and attacking here, or do I have to cover my gaps and, are we likely to lose the ball and I need to be back on defense? So again, really targeting the favorites that are going to have attacking roles and the ability to attack. Those are the ones you want. Fullback is also a time, but defenders a lot of times where we can get a punt. You can get a fullback that is filling in for an injured guy or somebody on red, and sometimes they'll be underpriced. I'm taping this in December, but we just had a slate not too long ago with Newcastle where Jamal Lewis had a spot start for a suspended Matt Ritchie. They were favored at home. Jamal Lewis was like 2.6K. He was over 70% owned in cash because it's almost min price. At the midfield position, min price is 3K. At defenders, 2.5K. He's 100 above min. So, he makes a lot of things happen. You could get a lot more set takers, a lot more favored forwards, and make your build work. So always be aware of that as well. You can also see people punt off if there's no good fullbacks. There's a big discrepancy between the guys at the top and the guys at the bottom aren't in good positions. You can see a lot of good players playing favored center backs that are going to pass the ball a ton, that even have some goal scoring equity. I've seen slates where like Harry Maguire, who's definitely a set piece threat, somebody that can get on the end of a header, is 2.9K and is chalk as a result because it's just a little too cheap. United's a minus 300 favorite at home. Maguire's going to have a number of corner kicks and has a very good shot at getting a shot on goal and all of a sudden paying off his price. So you'll see that there. Finally, goalie, the least favorite position in soccer. The best advice I can give anybody when they're starting out, is start with the cheapest keeper, build your lineup, and if you find the ability that with your last position and where you're at you don't like, and there's somebody much cheaper down further below that lets you pay up for the keeper, then go do it. But if you love your lineup and everything makes sense and you have set takers up and down, you have good floors everywhere, you're like, my God, I love this lineup, but I have the cheapest keeper and I'm worried that he is going to get pummeled. Well, hopefully he gets pummeled and gets a ton of saves. There has been many slates where we've seen a goalie allow 5 to 6 goals but get 10, 11 saves and be the highest scoring player or highest scoring goalie on the slate, because he meanwhile got 11 saves, allowed 5 goals. So he actually ended up with 12 DK, was the cheapest goalie on the slate. Meanwhile, the goalie on the other side of the game that they won 5-0 or 6-0 saw no shots, got 5 points for the win, 5 points for the clean sheet. He scored 10 DK, and you're looking out there and you're going, I paid $6,000 for 10 DK, and I could have paid $3,600 for 12. And you're just like, and I could have gotten so much better. I could have gone from Harry Maguire to Andy Robertson, and that difference was 10 points. My favorite goalie scored less than the lowest scoring player on the, or the lowest cheapest keeper on the slate, and Pew Pew or Sarah Meck or Pacheco or hopefully me passed you up with that, and you go, what the hell? That's what just happened to you. So reality is goalie is so variant. You can think of one thing. The worst is, that exact same situation that I just gave you. He got no saves, but he actually concedes a goal. And now he only got 3 DK. You paid $6,000 for 3 DK. The $3,600 keeper just got 12 DK, and you're screwed, and you just lost everything. So goalie, I will just tell you, that should be your last position in. Do not over prioritize it. If you can get the most favored goalie at home that's going to get a clean sheet and a win, great. I think that's a fantastic idea, and you should totally do that if everything else fits. But if it doesn't fit, goalie should be the first position that you look to pivot around. Don't get married to them. They will break your hearts more than you can count. I've done this for many years, and the correct answer is always the goalie that fits is the correct play. So I'll also just say this. I've always had a preference towards home goalies versus away. I do think that there is a significant advantage at home. So if I'm between 2 punts, one's at home, one's away, it's always going to be the home keeper. And there's not really even any much extra thinking on that. All right, that'll do it. Hope this works. Hope that this was coherent, made some sense, but beyond everything that it gives you some tips, and just some guidance and optimal and cash game building. My next one up will be GPP building, so I hope you guys and gals out there stick around for that. Again, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, comment. All really does help. With that, I'll say, see you.